Welcome to another episode of Voices from Across the Seas, where we interview immigrants in Australia. In every journey, there's a story that transcends borders, challenges, and expectations. Today, we're diving into a narrative that bridges the vast landscapes of Russia and Australia, a tale of resilience, adaptation, and the universal human spirit of exploration. Imagine a small town nestled on the crossroads of two continents, where a young boy's curiosity about technology would one day lead him across oceans to a completely different world. Our guest today is a testament to adaptability, a professional who has worked across continents, from the oil fields of Saudi Arabia to the tech hubs of the United States, and now making his home in Australia. A man who learned programming on vintage Robotron computers in a small Russian town, who has navigated cultural landscapes as skillfully as he manages complex technological systems. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Andrey. Andrey, lovely to have you on the show.
Hey, hello, hello. Yeah, thank you for the great introduction.
Welcome, welcome. I'm sure, Andrey, that introduction is very less compared to your journey and the work that you do. So, that's very humble introduction. So Andre, I'll start from your childhood. Tell me about Orenburg, a town that most of our listeners have probably never heard of.
Yeah, it's a very small town in the middle of nowhere. Luckily they found the gas there, and that's actually give this town actually the way to develop and get money from the gas. But usually the yeah. Meat over there. So basically, it's located in the prairie, and yeah, the cows and other creatures like chicken and all the rest, it's actually growing there, and we sell a lot of meat everywhere across the Russia and Kazakhstan and so on. So basically, yeah, it's a town which is focused on the agriculture, and luckily, because of this, the gas money, they started to develop a kind of growth point where the youngers like me could actually learn how to program, how to create these, computer things.
That's wonderful. So, Andre, from what I understand, is you have this kind of like a love affair with Orenburg, right? Because I believe you were born over there, you were raised over there, and you had an amazing family. So tell me more about that. Tell me about your childhood, your siblings, cousins, and how did that shape your perspectives on the world?
Oh yeah, yeah. So actually, yeah, our family come from everywhere. So part of our family come from Ukraine, part is basically the locals. But yeah, last probably 120 years, our family lives in this Orenburg. So I had a lot of cousins,
Wow.
and yeah, basically my parents lived in a town, but actually my grandmother are from the village, which is 100 kilometers away from this city, and that's where I spent most of my childhood. Right, every summer we live there. So for 3 months we just spend our time there. We were fishing. We do nothing, we just hanging around and spending our times enjoying ourselves in a tree. So we might, cycle into the forest and again try to find some, mushrooms and berries or whatever. Again, fishing a lot. Yeah, we're just enjoying the summer, enjoying the nature, and yeah, enjoying ourselves. So yeah, we spend our time together with cousin, just playing around.
Interesting. Now, since you mentioned about summers, from what I also gather, is that you spent a lot of the summers on your grandmother's farm and worked on construction projects with your father. So, how did those experiences shape you?
Well, yes, I help my grandma to grow some foods for our family. Basically, I was focusing on agriculture when I was younger, right? So my first money come from the agriculture. I used to drive this, the big tractor to actually collect all this, food out of the ground. That was my first money. So I basically um, make enough money to buy clothes for myself for the whole year. So I was kind of my parents shouldn't think about what to buy me to wear. So I was busy, and I resolved it by myself. But my father's house, it's a different story. It's basically we built. My father decided to build a big house just close to the city. Just I don't know, 10 minutes walk from the border of this small city.
Yeah.
He built this quite a big house, and I helped them to actually put the bricks to the workers, so also they manage the workers what they need to do, where to put the concrete and where to put this steel sticks to hold these things together. And then later on, basically to grow trees close to this home, just to make it nicer.
Nice. That's a very fabulous childhood, I must say. But I'm curious, Andre. Now, this is just me being very cheeky. So, when you were actually working on your grandmother's farm, what was the inspiration? Growing food or making money?
I would say making money. Yeah, I was focusing on to make money. Yeah, this chicken. I mean, who cares about chickens itself, right? So, but if you could sell the chickens, yeah, and you might get a lot of money out of that. Well, not a lot, but yeah,
Well,
some money,
okay. So,
which is enough for you if you're younger. Yeah.
very nice. So the businessman Andre,
Oh,
the
yeah.
business minded right from the childhood. Very nice, very nice. Okay, so now while you were doing these things, Andre, you were working on your grandmother's chicken farm. You were helping your father build a house. You were also building your dreams, and those dreams kind of started through programming. So tell us the story of what was it like finding about this PC computer labs, working on these Robotron computers, and what exactly captured your imagination?
Well, yeah, it was completely new for me, right? So I never had such experience before. I mean, to work on this Robotron computers and so on. So the idea behind that you might make someone to work for you. I mean, you just make an order for something or someone, and it's create something for you. For example, yeah, my first program was to land a rocket into the moon. So
Wow.
yeah, first of all, you need to understand how this program language works, and the second, you have to know the mathematics, how to program this formula to land your starship. The idea of the starship and the idea of basically make this work on the computer really makes me dream about something which I could do if I learn these programming languages. So it's basically this idea of the spaceship and the programming. It's absolutely great. It was really driving me when I was young.
Amazing. So in your childhood, you went from farmer Andre to builder Andre to programmer Andre. Did you wear any other hats? Like, did you have any other hobbies that you also spent time doing, which have possibly lasted or stayed with you even till today?
Well, I'm not quite sure about that, but I was reading a lot of the science fiction these days, right? And I dream about the devices which you might use to actually have the video calls and the audio calls, whatever you are, right? And that's what it's it's really show me the way where I should go, right? So show me the
Okay.
target, so where I should go and where we as a humanity should develop ourselves, right? And this programming and Robotron actually come together. It actually bring a basis for this.
Nice. So basically, what we are seeing the present, I'm understanding is you already had predicted the future in your childhood.
Not really. It's someone else, not
And
me, right?
I'm just curious about what we are calling AI nowadays, artificial intelligence. Maybe it was Andre intelligence back then.
Yeah, of course not, right? It was someone else. Yeah, but definitely I was dreaming about that. Yeah, I was dreaming about something which is a kind of artificial intelligence, which helps people, yeah, just do nothing and let somebody else is doing their jobs. And that's what artificial intelligence might do potentially.
Okay, we will call it artificial intelligence if you so much insist. Fine. Okay. So while you were having all of the time on the farm, building and programming, then obviously you moved on, education, career. Where did you go from that?
Yeah, it was easy for me, right? So my father spent, yeah, all of his life working for the Gazprom. It's a huge, natural resource company. And it was a Gubkin University in Moscow who actually trained people who wanted to develop themselves in this oil and gas industry. But I was lucky because they opened this IT IT section on this oil and gas university, and I actually joined the automated systems department. So actually, they trained me how to manage these devices, like the valves, the machines remotely. So it's basically based on a computer, but using this computer programming language, you might manage the equipment which is installed on this field, on the gas field or oil fields. It's that's what I really love. So first of all, you understand the geology, you understand the IT, and when you mix it together, you could basically manage the things which is installed on the field, and that's what I really like.
So basically, you combine your two love affairs. One is oil and gas, and the other is computer science into one. The party that you started in childhood still continued. Now, as part of the oil and gas, I'm sure you must have got the opportunities to travel the world and work in multiple countries. What's the most valuable lesson that you've learned from working in such diverse environments?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, I started to travel a lot when I joined this, first of all Schlumberger and then Shell. I travel across the Russia, and my first trip was to Sakhalin. It's only 9,000 kilometers from Moscow, so it's a small island. Yeah, so I spent there 2 years where I met my wife, and then we traveled to Beijing, and then to Saudi Arabia, and then here to Sydney. Right, and what I realized that whatever you travel, you shouldn't take a lot of things with you. Just one small suitcase is enough, even if you travel with your family. Because if we travel with more stuff than one suitcase, then we are in trouble, right? So the travel company might lose all your things, belongings. But if you travel with just a few shirts and few trousers, you're fine, right? And you might replace these trousers very easily, just visiting the shopping, closest shopping mall to you, and that's it. But yeah, it was a huge learning for me because we traveled from Sakhalin to Moscow with all of our belongings. Most of them are lost somewhere in between Sakhalin
Oh,
and
no.
Moscow. So yeah, and then we travel from Beijing to Moscow, and again it was actually the box with all of our belongings traveled to Netherlands. Then from Netherlands to somewhere else, and then only we've got our stuff for just 6 months before we're actually supposed to get it. So yeah, it wasn't a great idea to actually take all of our belongings. So yeah, just one suitcase for each person, and you're fine. That's how we traveled to Australia. It was just three suitcases and just a backpack of PC, a computer PC, the probably phones, and that's it. And it was great.
Amazing. I'm still curious. How did you get your family to pack only in one suitcase?
Well, as I mentioned, we travel a lot, right? So with my wife, because actually, when you work for Shell, you have to change your location every 2 years. You might stay
Okay.
longer, but it's not really a great idea. And my wife get used to this travel with me, and usually she just pick the stuff which she bought recently, just few t-shirts and probably the few coats, and yeah, that's it. And all old stuff we just throw it away or give it to
Oh,
someone
okay.
else. Yeah. And it started when I was a student. So I live in dormitory in Moscow, and
Okay.
we change the rooms quite often. So, and that's I realized that yeah, why actually move all the stuff with all my hands, right? If you just have one suitcase, pack it and go, right? And this is how it works quite well.
While you were in all these countries, is there something that you've learned from working with different cultures and different people?
The best lessons I've learned so far is that you shouldn't expect that people or the new places where you move would be completely the same as you lived before. For even within the Russia, or the Sakhalin is different from Moscow. The Moscow is different from Saint Petersburg, and so on and so forth. From Moscow to Beijing, you couldn't expect that it would be the same place where you used to live, right? So it's different. And when you think about that, you realize, okay, so it would be different by default. So you might try to protect yourself and say, yeah, this place is not good like we used to live, and so on. But then you realize that this is not the best approach to actually take the new opportunities on board. And then if you think about, okay, so it's different, yeah, by default, what it could teach you, right? So, and actually, when we moved to Beijing, I realized that basically you might learn a lot with this new culture. For example, if I'm talking about the food itself, right? When we just come to Beijing, I feel the smell of the food, and I realize that I don't like the smell. The food must not be, the best food ever. But then, after a few weeks, I realized, and when I smell when I could feel the smell of this food, I said, okay, let's try. And then I realized it's great food. It's the Chinese food is just great. Any kinds of Chinese food is great. And then I recently realized, okay, so it's basically this new place teach me how to not appreciate, but actually love the different cuisines and different smells and so on and so forth. And when we travel here to Sydney, it's the same, right? So the medical system here is different. The education system is different. But when you start thinking, okay, it's different. So what is good about this, educational system? What about the medical system? And I tell you that educational system is okay. But if I talk in the medical system, we didn't get used to that yet, right? But hopefully we will do
Okay.
one day, but not right now.
Okay.
If I'm talking about the educational system, yeah, it's different, but still, I mean, it's try to integrate my daughter into this new different way of studying. Again, it's not the great way or the best way to actually train my daughter, but I realized that it's probably good for her because she is not overloaded by this knowledge, a lot of knowledge and so on. She still have her spend her uh, um, time with the colleagues and so on, rather than just growing. Because I remember a time when she studied in St. Petersburg. She started studying at 9 a.m. and she continued till 11 p.m. Here,
Okay.
yeah, she back from home from school and spending most of the day just relaxing, right? So she might
Okay.
swim, might play games, and so on. It's not always good, but still, she read a lot, and I'm happy that she have this time basically to read and read, English books and so on. So again, what I'm trying to say is that you shouldn't protect yourself and try to replicate whatever you get used to in different places, but you have to open your mind and say, okay, so this is a new place. What this new place might teach you and your family and your daughter and your wife and so on. And I think, yeah, it's the best lessons learned I've got so far.
Interesting. Very interesting. This has been a very deep answer, I must admit.
And when you travel, when it's possible to travel using your employee, it's even better because you spend, for example, more time on this place. You learn it a lot
Got it.
instead of just travel for vacation. For example, yeah, 2 week vacation in the middle of nowhere. It's not the same as you live there, right? So if you live for example, we live here in Sydney almost 2 years. So we travel across the city. We know how to navigate without a map. So I know
Yep.
the roads. I know where the best place to buy, I don't know, the milk, where the best place to buy veggies, and so on and so forth. So basically, you become a local here, and you live more life than before. So if you live in one place, you just have one life, right? And if you live in variety of the
Yep.
places, you have much more lives, if I could say that.
Now, it's very deep, very deep. I do understand there's also a part that you were in the US, and you were in the US around the Cold War era. So, how did you, as a Russian, feel in the US?
Oh yeah. So I had a lot of conversation in the US, and yeah, people actually never saw the Russians, right? And especially if we're talking about the Texas. And I worked for Shell, and it was the Houston. We had the office in Houston, Shell office in Houston, and yeah, not a lot of people see Russians in Texas and Houston, and every time when we
Mhm.
go for a drink, we always finish our drink with vodka. And so we actually communicate a lot, and that's what I think it's because we had so-called discussion depth. It's like a technical depth. So, but we, in order to get used to each other, we need to communicate. We need to ask a question. So, why you do so? Why you do it in this particular way, and so on. So, because it's different story how the Americans and how Russian might resolve the same issues, right? So Americans try a lot, they communicate a lot, they actually discuss a lot. And Russian, well, I don't know, probably I'm talking about myself, but in most cases, I need to spend my time just thinking about this stuff and then provide this kind of a solution for that. And discussion might be just something which disturbs me, but we might uh, actually utilize the both of this approach to get into the solution. But yeah, as I mentioned, we had a lot of a discussion. Actually, we went for the drinks and we just communicate to each other, tell the story. So it was interesting for me. Like for example, if we're talking about the Texas, I asked them, why you have these trucks? I mean, you never use it. I mean, you don't have a farm. Why you travel from your home to the work using these trucks? Right, it was interesting. Why not to use just small car to travel? So what the point of this huge trucks? They told me that they might have the farms and use it to build they houses using these trucks and so on and so forth. As well as me, and I tell them how I grew up, where I grew up, and so on. So I think it's important to communicate to each other. And yeah, they teach me a lot. For example, this data governance. I started data governance or studied data governance when I was on Shell in Houston. It was a small company which belongs to Shell. It's so-called AIRA. It's again in the middle of nowhere, and they create a lot of business value using this data governance. This is how I make money for life doing this data governance things, right? So they teach me a lot. And basically, the best manager I ever had was Randy Reagan from US. So yeah.
You mentioned vodka. Did you ever tell your US colleagues, hey, I may be the first Russian here in Texas, but vodka has been all along here?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and not even me who tell them. That's what's told. I mean, they told me so, right? So they say, you know what? I try a lot vodka so many times, but I never drink vodka with Russians. So let's have a drink, and we always finish our communication in bars, or restaurants, just having vodka, at the very end of these
Vodka.
sessions. Yeah.
Nice. So before you all could part for the night, did you ever say das vidania or hasta la vista, baby?
Yeah, we tell it, in variety of ways. Hasta la vista, das vidania. I mean, we were drunk this, I mean, at the very end, so that's why.
Who knows what they said? Okay, fine. We'll leave it to that. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, so the next country that I'm really curious about is China. You touched upon the Chinese food. Chinese food is something that was not of your taste the first time you tried it, but then eventually you warmed up to it, and finally you loved it. Was there anything about China, or that really interested you, amused you, that slowly you had to get accustomed to?
You know what is interesting? When I thought about China, that it's even more communist than Russia. But then when we land,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, because I mean the red flags everywhere, and I said, okay, so I might be in trouble here. But then I realized that I mean, it's a free country. I mean, I feel myself quite like home. So I never feel alone in China. Sometimes I mean, sometimes I like it, sometimes I'm not like it. So, for example, my daughter has been delivered in Beijing. The first week, yeah, we went outside. I actually carry my daughter on my hands, and I was busy with her. And then one grandmother, actually Chinese grandmother, came and tried to see my daughter just without asking me, right? Without asking me permission.
Okay.
She's trying to look at her and say something about what is going on here. I mean, it's my daughter. I didn't give you permission. And later I realized that it wasn't something, I mean, and I thought it's something strange. I don't like it. And then I realized she didn't mean anything bad. She just tried to, look at her and probably say something not to, just to make, cause that time she was crying.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and she tried to actually bless her, stop her crying, and try to say something to her. And it was interesting that, I mean, the elders, they really like my daughter. They try to, give her something or, play with her and so on. So it was nice. And what else? Yeah, and also I travel a lot across Beijing using my electric bike. So I bought my first electric bike in China. It was quite cheap, and I travel using this electric bike. Yeah, it was nice. Also, I realized that a lot of people they're doing they kind of kung fu classes between the trees. So you might go to the park and see that somebody is doing kung fu classes. So yeah, it was fun. China is quite big also. And when I saw it on the map, and if you compare it with Russia, so, well, yeah, it's not a big country. But then when you travel by yourself in this country, oh, you realize it's a huge country. It's yeah, it's basically the same as Russia. So I travel from Beijing to Guangzhou and a few other cities. Yeah, I quite like it. And it was, I feel kind of a free in China. So that's what was unusual for me. I thought, yeah, as I mentioned, so it's a really communist country, but it's not actually.
Did you ever face a language problem in China?
Oh yeah, a lot. You might think that Chinese speak Chinese and they understand each other, but unfortunately or fortunately, it's not. We live in the middle of the Beijing, but if you travel from the Beijing center to fifth ring, so they have five rings, road rings, and if you travel far from the fifth ring, you are in trouble, right? So because I learned a little some phrases in Chinese just to let people help you, for example, where to go, right, and just to show a taxi driver how where to drive. But then my pronunciation, I mean, and I was trained by the person who live in the city center, and pronunciation of the Chinese language in the city center and in the suburbs of the same city is completely different. It's becoming even worse. So, for example, you might catch the taxi and provide the taxi driver a phone to speak to the Chinese person, which could explain where I should go, and they might spend about 30 minutes communicate to each other, trying to understand where this taxi driver bring me. So yeah, it's basically it's. But in general, I mean, the people are helpful. They're open. They're helpful. They're trying to help you because they see that you are a foreigner here, right? And in most cases, it helps. They speak the Chinese. Yeah, you speak Russian and English, and finally, you could find the way from where you should go.
Interesting. This conversation is proving to be an eye-opener. You said you spent some time in Saudi Arabia as well. How did that work out for you?
Yeah, it was a project where we tried to implement the digital oil field into the Lukoil overseas project. I went to Dubai and spent there a few days, and it was plus 40 there, and then I catch the flu. Yeah, I have plus 40. The temperature outside is plus 40, and I spent a few weeks just trying to figure out how to stop this. And then I realized that I mean, even if it's hot, you still might get a flu, and it was kind of eye-open for me. But yeah, I mean, it's different. The culture there is different. I realized that yeah, you might try to implement the latest technology there, but you have to communicate to the people who on the ground and who actually trying to use it and try to collect the data and so on. It's not something against them, right? So it's something which aimed to help them and so on. So yeah, this is what I could tell you about the Dubai project. Oh yeah, it was hot, and I try to spend as much time as possible inside rather than outside, because we went to this Burj Khalifa, right? And yeah, but it was so hot. So yeah, we just went to the restaurant and trying to look into the Burj Khalifa from inside rather than from outside.
This is very funny, very, very funny. Everyone who goes to the Burj Khalifa, especially on Instagram and all, there are tons of photos. People standing besides the Burj Khalifa, on top of the Burj Khalifa, inside the Burj Khalifa. You're the first one to say it was so hard. We were somewhere else, and from there we saw the Burj Khalifa. Well, thank you for your honesty. Brilliant. So now coming to the meat of the conversation, Australia. While you were traveling across these different countries and different cultures, when and how did the thought of visiting Australia come to you?
Yeah, I wanted to visit Australia one day when I'll be 75 or 80s. When I retire and old, to travel to Australia, it's far from everywhere. But then I've got this opportunity and say, yeah, why not to travel a little bit earlier than I expected, right?
Okay, nice.
Yeah, and I mean, I do remember when we traveled to Sydney from Seoul, South Korea, and it was most of the longest trip I ever had. It was 11-hour flight from Seoul to Sydney. Yeah, 11. And I do remember. So it was minus 15 in Seoul, and we land here in Sydney, and it was plus 30 or 40. And it was completely different world, right? So it was snow over there, and I mean, no snow at all here, right? Never, ever in Sydney. And it was green and sunny. My daughter always wanted to live in a country with a lot of sun, and that's here we are, right? Yeah, I love Australia, and what I realized here in Australia that yeah, Sydney is the most green city, but
Okay.
if you travel to Perth, it's less greeny.
Uh-huh.
But actually, really reminds me the Orenburg, the city where I was born. It's not
Wow.
because of the trees or prairies or whatever, but smell. I
Okay.
yeah, when I've been to Perth a few times, I could feel the smell of the Orenburg. It's kind of dusty and spicy, I would say. And it's not only
Okay.
me who actually feel the same. One of our client, she is from Kazakhstan, and Kazakhstan and Orenburg, they're quite close to each other. And she
Okay.
mentioned the similar story. She said, you know what? When we first landed in Perth, we realized it's really I mean, it's really remind the Kazakhstan, and not because of again the buildings and whatever, but its smell and actually how you feel yourself there.
Incredible, incredible. I'm not sure if I'll get an opportunity to visit Orenburg, but what I could do is try my best to get to Perth, and this smells like Orenburg. So maybe that's the closest that I can come to. Wonderful. Okay, so earlier you mentioned you planned on visiting Australia maybe towards your retirement, so in your 70s, etc. that time. But then an opportunity arose and you were here much earlier. This kind of feels that you didn't choose Australia. Australia chose you. So before you could come to Australia, and before this opportunity arose, did you have any idea, any assumptions of Australia at all?
No, no, I never. I even didn't open a website to learn more about Australia. So again,
Okay.
this is another rule. And the first rule is that you should travel just with one suitcase, and the second rule is that you shouldn't check up front where you're going. Because I mean,
Okay.
what the point? I mean, you might read a lot of articles and somebody loves it, somebody hates it. I mean, you should check it by yourself. And the only way to understand do you like it or not is just to travel there. And Australia was one of these places, right? So, for example, if we're talking about my previous experience, I traveled to Sakhalin and I never ever read about Sakhalin before. And when I arrived, I
Okay.
actually built the understanding of the Sakhalin by myself without any third-party opinions and so on and so forth. And that's what we did
Okay.
with Australia as well, right? We just traveled there. So you know what? Yeah, it's a bit far, but let's travel. Let's understand how to live there and build our opinion. Do we like it or not?
Wow. So you basically are saying do not go to any place with preconditional bias. But don't you ever fear that you could potentially get mugged or scammed without knowing? Isn't it still a good idea just to have a little bit of knowledge before you reach a place?
A good question. I have nothing to be scammed, right? What I could provide to the scammers? I don't have a lot of money on my accounts, right? The only things which they might get from me is probably the phone on the PC, which is, yeah, basically nothing.
No, because I do know, and nowadays the scammers are pretty smart. Earlier, they used to only look at looting you of your money or looting you of your phones and all. But I do remember when I was planning a trip to Bangkok and we were going to the palace, one thing we were not aware of is the new scam. So if you get into a taxi and if you tell them that you want to go to the palace, they come up with these reasons. Like, for example, they tell you that there is nothing happening there today, or there's some ceremony, that the palace is closed, and they take you to another place. Obviously, they get a commission and they get a cut. So they mislead you into going to a different place when actually you can go to the palace. It's small, it's petty, but still, at the end of the day, they have misled you, which kind of feels bad.
Hmm. You know what? We never had such situation before. Probably because I'm the big fat Russian guy.
Are you saying they consider you Russian mafia or something?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we never had a situation like that before. So yeah, I don't know why, but yeah.
Well, lucky you. Lucky you, and I'm glad you never experienced that. I hope and I pray that experience it. So lucky you. Okay, so you did not have any assumptions of Australia before you came here. Did you at least know what a kangaroo was or how a kangaroo looked like?
Oh yeah, of course I saw the pictures. But to be
Oh,
honest,
okay.
well, yeah, when we went into the zoo, which is 50 kilometers away from Sydney, and when I first touched the kangaroo, I really love it. And as well as
Wow.
my daughter, right? I mean, it's so nice. I mean, you just hug it, and you just wanted to take it with
Okay.
you, but unfortunately, it's not allowed. Yeah, so, but it was nice.
Unfortunately, I know. Unfortunately, some people have many assumptions of Australia. Like with children, often you can play the Mickey. That in Australia, children go to schools on a kangaroo.
Oh, never heard of that. No.
I, I, I know, right? But maybe someone out there in the world may be thinking that that is possibility. You ride a kangaroo to the schools. I personally have never had the guts to hug a kangaroo. I have fed a kangaroo, and that also, saying my last prayers, because I do remember I'd gone to this park to feed the kangaroos, and I was feeding all the baby kangaroos. Out of nowhere, this big, humongous kangaroo from one corner of the park started hopping towards me at speed, and this baby kangaroo was still feeding out of my hand. So I was like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. Either I feed the kangaroo or I will be food to the big kangaroo. But before I could realize, the big kangaroo was standing right next to me, and it's tall, right? It's face to
Yeah.
face. It's really face to face. And I'm like, I have no chance. What do you want me to do? I thought I'm dead. That's it. But to my good luck, the adult kangaroo also started eating from my
Oh,
hand. So I was like, okay. I was
yeah.
lucky that way, but that was my closest encounter with the kangaroo. And even in that moment, I did not want to hug the kangaroo. So if I could get an opportunity to hug any animal, it would be the koala.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would not mind hugging the koala. Trust me, very few people know, and maybe you can shed some light on this as well. I feel the koala is the most coolest endangered species out there. Because
Yeah.
what does it do? It's on the eucalyptus tree, eating all day and sleeping all day. What does it do? Nothing. It never comes to a realization, hey, I'm endangered. I need to take care. No, I'm sleeping. Sleep is more important. Clear cut. Priority is set. Have you ever seen a koala? Have you ever had an
Yeah.
opportunity to touch a koala?
No, we never touched the koala, but definitely we saw them, on the zoo, which is close to the Sydney. So yeah, and it's again, I do remember the smell of the eucalyptus close to the koala, right? So because they eaten a lot of the eucalyptus, and they're
Yes.
nice, definitely. But I never them, right? So because it's far from the people, and you just see it, you just look on that, but not touch them. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe that can be on your to-do list.
Oh yeah.
Go and cuddle a koala.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, maybe one of the goals of 2025. Okay, so now you did not, so now coming back, you did not have any assumptions of Australia. How has Australia treated you? Have you found anything that still not got used to it, or some things that you really taken a liking for?
99% I like Australia. 1% it's GPs, which I personally don't understand how they works, right? I mean, when we
Okay,
first of all we have to
no one understands how they work, Andre. No one understands.
yeah, so first of all, you have to wait for this appointment. It's really hard to get an appointment with GP, and you can't do
Agreed.
anything without the GP's subscription, and not subscription, but the prescription. When you visit the GP, it's literally that's what we had experience with. They literally read the internet. Yeah, my wife visited a GP. She asked a few questions, and the GP said, "You know what? Give me some time. So I'll find this information on the internet." What the heck? I mean, we are paying so much money to the GP, and I could read this article on internet by myself. Why I should pay this for this, right? It's nice that you read me
Agreed.
that, but I could read it by myself. I think, yeah. But all the rest, I mean, all the other doctors was quite nice and knowledgeable for my wife. But yeah, so I think that GP, it's something which have to be improved.
I myself was very surprised initially when I came here. I went to a GP and I said, I have pain in my ear. The GP did exactly what you said. The GP went on the internet, searched, and told me, this is what's paining. And he told me to go and buy Nurofen, which is an over-the-counter painkiller. And he said, take it. And I was like,
Thank you.
And at that time, because everything was new for me, I was like, this might be modern science that we are talking about. Never say. It's a developed country, so maybe that's how it is done. Because in India, if this were to happen, the GP would not have a practice anymore. Because that's exactly what a pharmacist would do in India. You would go to a medical shop, and the pharmacist would look up the internet and give you a
Absolutely.
Nurofen.
The same story in Russia as well, yes.
Yeah, so that's what I also feel is a big difference. In India, a GP or a doctor is looked up with a lot more respect. He or she is supposed to know everything. So I think it's just a different way of looking at it. So now, unless and until it's really needed, unless the internet cannot give you a very convincing answer, then you go to a GP. Because why? Hearing it from a fellow human being still sounds more convincing than ChatGPT telling you what it is. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you cannot blame ChatGPT, right? But you can blame the doctor for sure. You need somebody to throw under the bus. So that's what you feel is something that really needs to be worked on.
And
Okay,
interesting
okay,
side of the road, on the right, wrong side of the road.
wrong side of the road, is it?
Yes. But then after a few months, I realized that this is the right side of the road, and I think this
Oh
is the
wow,
best.
okay.
Yeah, this is the best side to drive the car. But the first crossroad was absolutely nightmare for me. So why should I drive? How to turn? I mean, I do remember the situation when I stand on the crossroad, and then I realized that I taken the wrong part of the road. Luckily enough, it wasn't any
Okay.
divider between the lines, and I just jumped to the correct side of the road fast enough. Hopefully, the police are not going to listen. Us.
No, I will not pass this information. I'll keep it privy to us.
Yeah, because the fines here is absolutely nightmare. So
You're touching on a very painful nerve, Andre. The fine, the parking. It's like what should you not pay? What is free? The taxes are high, the penalties are high, the fines are high, the parking is high, and you go like definitely. That's the reason this country is rich. It's taking all my money. Obviously, this country would be rich. But that's a tale. That's a story. I think only people who are here based in Australia will know. From a distance, outside Australia, obviously the Harbour Bridge looks wonderful. The Opera House looks wonderful. Cricket stadiums look wonderful. Do they ever tell you how much you're supposed to pay to see all these things? No. Okay, so now, Andre, I am going to get into a fun section on our podcast. And the fun section is Fun 5. I'm going to ask you 5 quick questions, rapid fire questions, comparing Russia and Australia. Okay? So are you ready?
I'll try. I'll try my best.
Okay, go. Let's go for it. So, food, and I hope I pronounce this right. Sort of borscht or a meat pie? Borscht, okay. Wonderful. Ice hockey or cricket?
Well, I never try cricket. Ice hockey.
Ice hockey. Okay. Culture. Russian literature or Australian theatre?
Well, it's a tough question. So I read a lot, but I never was on a Sydney Opera. So I don't know. I cannot compare. Probably both of them.
Both of them. Okay. Then another on your to-do list, Andre.
Yeah,
Cities. Moscow or Sydney?
Sydney.
Sydney. Oh, wow. Okay. Didn't expect that. And seasons. The last one. Russian snowy winters or Australian sunny summers?
You know what? I would say that for the Christmas, I would prefer the winter and snowy winter, but just for the Christmas. All the rest of the year should be sunny days like here in Australia.
Interesting. Yeah.
When I see the Christmas tree in the middle of green
Yeah.
trees, it's not a Christmas. It's not a proper Christmas, I would say, right?
Agreed. Agreed. No, I completely resonate with that feeling. Yeah, and I know it's hard. It's hard. But many people actually across the world don't know because don't notice that it's summer when it's Christmas. And then you go to the mall and you see Santa Claus, and Santa Claus is in a shirt and in shorts.
Yeah, it should
And
be
you
here,
feel
Santa Claus. I mean,
like,
there's something wrong here.
exactly. And then you see this is cultural erosion. This is a fake Santa. He didn't come from the North Pole, he came from the South Pole.
Yeah, fake Santa. Yeah, it's
So
yeah, this is true. Yeah.
it's something that's very different. Okay. So only for Christmas you would like the Russian snowy
Oh, yeah.
winter, but on all other days you
For
enjoy
2 weeks
the
only.
Australian
Yeah,
sunny
for 2
summers.
weeks only. I'll pray for that.
For 2 weeks only. Okay. That's another condition, 2 weeks only. Okay. Done. Very well done, Andre. That was a very quick and nice and witty rapid fire, the fun five, as we call it. Okay, so now we're in the final stages of our episode. Tell me one thing in Russia that you would love to have in Australia and vice versa.
Hmm. Well, the first thought was to have parents here. I don't
Yeah.
know why. I don't know
Yep.
why. But
Yeah.
then I thought
Obviously,
about
family. Yes.
yeah. Then I thought what could be. Well, you know what? I'm not going to tell you about Russia, but what I would like to have here in Sydney, it should be from China. It's a Chinese restaurant, cheap and nice and cozy, and actually with a lot of great food. This is what we should bring from China to Sydney, and I think this is
Okay.
what is missing here. It's not from Russia, but still.
Okay. So cheap Asian food is what I'm
Yeah.
hearing. Cheap Asian food. Okay. What's one thing in Australia that you would have loved to have in another part of the world?
Yeah, the ocean. I love ocean, and actually,
Ocean.
yeah, ocean. Because I mean, I really love to go outside because we live in the Ross Bay, and you might just walk, I don't know, the few minutes, and you saw this ocean. And if you, for example, would like to clean your head completely, I mean, clean, think nothing, just relax and think about universe, then you should go there and just watch into the ocean, and probably you might see the dolphins or the whales. But even so, I mean, it's really relaxing. You just see the ocean, see how the waves moves, and yeah, basically think about the nothing. That's what I really like here in Australia. It's really it's probably I don't know because of my philosophical attitude, but
Yeah.
it's really relaxing me.
Okay. No, I wouldn't say that that's the wrong thing to love because I do know, and I personally like being besides a river. It often brings a sense of calm. The best way to put it. It's often it's nice seeing just the ocean by itself. It's lovely. But when you earlier said that you would like to clear your head, I was like, in the ocean? No, but yeah, okay. I
Yeah.
no, you put your head in the
Your
middle and
thoughts,
then
right? Not clean your head.
exactly clear your thoughts. And I was like, especially with so many sharks around, I'm not sure. You might put your head in the next thing you know without any. That'll never happen.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, but okay, but I get you, and I do agree. It's great sense of calm, especially because also Australia is blessed with a lot of beaches,
Oh yeah.
and some of those beaches are hardly visited by anyone. You'll have just sometimes you're in the middle of nowhere, no one around you, and that's a blessing as well. If you're the beach kind of a person, having the ocean, the expanse of the ocean is incredible. And do you also know that the ocean is actually Australia's international border?
Yeah, yeah.
No, because that is something that people know, but they don't understand. It takes a different level of thinking because otherwise, when you see borders, you will see, okay, it's lush green fields and Sometimes you have barbed fences and stuff like that. So you're thinking of that, especially if you compare Europe, it's just like, a street. And before you know it, you've just moved a few inches and you're in another country. And over here, when you come, like, how does the border in Australia look? The ocean.
It's a nice way to think about that. Yeah.
It's a different feeling. And then you realize you're on an island and you go like, whoa, this is how it is. So, these things are just different, just the way how we perceive things. Okay, nice. So that's what he said. Okay, so the ocean is something in Australia that you would have loved to have in any country that you were. Fine. Now, finally, Andre, do you have or can you share any advice to a new immigrant, especially from Russia?
Oh, just travel to Australia, try it, and probably you'll find a nice place to live, and spend your time. Yeah, I mean, nothing special, but you just have to try it before you come to the end of your life. 75 years old. You should travel to Australia. When you, I don't know, 30 or 40, just to travel across the country and so on. Yeah.
And I may ask you just one more question, just maybe from a cultural angle. Yes, now your daughter is obviously going to school over here in Australia. Do you ever have a conflict? It's normally there that one generation is born in one culture, another generation is born in another culture. Do you have a conflict at home that you being with the Russian culture, your daughter is becoming Australian, and how that would play out?
Not really. And to be honest, I'm not sure that I'm really Russian cultured, right? So I don't feel the way, and we don't have this conflict at all. And no, I don't have this conflict, sorry. And to be honest, I would like to be as close to my daughter as possible.
Nice. So you're basically one of the school dads out there, which are rare to find.
Yeah, maybe. Honestly, I don't know how. I compare myself with my father, and I don't feel the difference between ourselves. Yeah, this is how I grew up, and yeah.
Amazing. And a very lovely, lovely chat with you. We are blessed and honored to have you. We have traveled through your life's journey today, Andre. And your journey is a testament to the resilience and adaptability that you have completely shown through our conversation. And one thing that stands out from your story, like how you were talking, is the universal human desires. The desires can be as simple as safety, opportunity, connection, which binds us all. So no matter where we come from.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, actually, our conversation, this thought certainly comes to my mind, which completely resonates with your story, that the world is a book, and those people who do not travel read only on page.
Yeah, yeah, good phrase. Yeah, absolutely.
Good phrase,
You have
right?
to read it all.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to read it all. So to all those people who are waiting till their retirement to experience this land down under,
just go.
Don't wait. Just catch the plane. Don't even Google what Australia looks like and how Australia would treat you. And definitely pack light. Because if it works for Andre, who has been across the globe, I'm sure it can work for all of us as well. Immigration isn't about changing locations. It's about expanding our understanding of humanity. And that's what we all want. That at the end of the day, we may be different, but deep down under, we're all the same. If you loved Andre's incredible journey, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Voices from Across the Seas. Help us spread stories that inspire, challenge, and connect us all. For show notes, visit our page on Substack. We'll be back soon with more incredible stories from those who have made Australia their home. Until next time, I'm Nelton D'Souza. Keep chasing your dreams wherever they may take you. See you soon.